Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PracGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com.
Hi, David.
Hello, Jim. What happened? I don't know.
Well, I never start.
This record button is not working like half the time right now. I need to put in a ticket with our hosts.
A trouble ticket.
Because I click it and then nothing happens, and then I click it again and all of a sudden it's live. That's okay. Jim was supposed to start one off soon anyways. Just a word of warning, Jim will be eating during the first part of this episode. This is being recorded. This is being recorded. Recorded after Jim's work, and he's eating his final meal of the day. Not of his life or anything.
Yeah, my final meal. Okay.
He's literally he's sitting in his house right now. He has a coat on. He literally just walked in out of the car. I believe that's some sort of Taco Bell that he's eating right there. You can never tell. It's Taco Bell now. It looks like Doritos, it looks like a really crappy burrito, and then it's like, oh, that's Taco Bell.
Yep, that's the one.
So. Let me think. I got a lot of crazy stuff coming up, so I guess I should start while Jim is chowing down over here.
That's a good idea.
I have another show at Rookies in Bloomingdale.
Oh, nice.
Or Roselle or wherever that place is. It's Rookies near Bloomingdale and Roselle.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And this last show we had was up there, and this is a charity gig. One of our band members supports charity every Christmas, and so we're doing the show. And actually. My wife is changing jobs, and it appears that this will be her, last hurrah with the old company before she moves over to the new company.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be cool if you're in the area, in the Chicago area, and you want to come in and check it out. We're just gonna play a bunch of music, and it'll be fun. So there's big things happening this week.
Yeah.
Gear things. No, not gear things.
I got gear stuff coming up.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to your gear problem. Jim needs guitar methadone.
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, yeah. So Star Wars comes out tomorrow? I think, right? Thursday. Mm-hmm. No, today's Tuesday. Dude, days are running into it. So for those of you who don't know, we normally record on Sunday evenings,
right?
And that didn't happen this week because I'm having a flooring disaster right now. I am not living in my condo at the moment. I am recording from my condo this evening. I am literally sitting in the only clear space in my house where someone can actually hang out because there's furniture everywhere else except for my bedroom, which is completely devoid of furniture except for the crappy flooring I bought that doesn't function properly. You can't put it together using the prescribed instructions.
That's insane.
They say tap it with a mallet, and you tap it with a mallet, and guess what happens? The little tongue that holds it together falls off. It literally breaks off. In fact, I'm sitting here and I have a piece of it right here in front of me. This breaks off.
Oh my God, that's it? That's all it is?
Yeah, because the vinyl's that thick. It's really thin. Mm-hmm. It's less than I would say it's probably 5 or 6 millimeters thick. It's not thick, when you see that mill rating, if you go and look at like, this kind of flooring, that mill rating is supposed to be the wear rating. It's not necessarily the thickness. Okay.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, it's actually the flooring looks great. It looks fine. It looks like it's reasonable quality. But it's just, I'm having a hell of a time installing it. We spent an entire afternoon. I got 3 rows of the flooring in like a, 15 by 15 space, right? I got 3 rows of the flooring in, and then I look over and the first row is bowing up because the joints weren't good. And this was the second time we did it. So now I'm sitting on 3 $90 boxes of flooring that have been opened that are probably just going to trash. And then there's a giant pile of flooring behind me that I have to take back, which is probably 800 pounds or so.
Oh my God.
That I'm going to have to take back so I can get my money out of it and go get something that actually works. So it's just been a nightmare. As listeners of the show who follow us, my house has been in a state of disrepair since like early September. I am at wit's end. If you follow the show, I'm in therapy. I went to therapy tonight, and I basically just laid out for all the different things that have been going on in my life. And there was not really a whole lot of like, here, let me tell you how to deal with this. It was more like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I'm going to play music to try and make myself feel better. I don't know how well that's going to work.
I was going to make a joke, but I don't want to sound cold.
We're doing a shortened episode tonight.
That's right. Yep.
Because of all the craziness that's going on in my life right now. I almost wasn't able to squeeze in an episode this week.
Yeah.
And tonight, actually, the comment was made like, do I return the flooring I have tonight so that I can buy more flooring and let it acclimate before I install it on Saturday or Sunday? Like, this is the kind of like crazy scheduling nonsense that's going on. I was going to take off work tomorrow and do it. And then guess what? Tomorrow's the Christmas party, so I can't take off work because I already RSVP'd for this dine around experience. They're going to drive us around town. This is what gets me. So my company, look, they really do take care of us, but then they do dumb stuff like this. It's like, oh, let's have a Christmas party. What do you want to do? No one in our office said, I want to stand outside of a bus in the cold.
Yeah.
and that's what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay? It's supposed to be 22 degrees here. And we're all going to be sitting outside of a bus waiting for the restaurants to open up for us. Because that's what we do. Okay? My whole thought was like, why don't we cater in some really good food and have a team building experience where people can gather and visit in the office? Or why don't we all just go to a restaurant? No, we have to get on a bus and drive around town. And by the way, Chicago, so we're driving around town like 45 minutes in between some of these restaurants and stuff. So not only that, but I'm not the guy that like goes to all you can eat buffet and eats everything. As my appearance would not suggest, I actually don't eat a whole lot. So this is going to be one of those crappy, like, hey, let's go to the first restaurant. Well, I'm full. Let's go to the second restaurant. What will you have? Nothing.
Nothing. I'm already full from the first restaurant.
Yeah, go to the third restaurant. What will you have? Give me a glass of water.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's what it's going to be like for me. They're like, oh, pace yourself.
Hell yeah.
No, because if I see something I like, I'm going to eat it because I don't take chances.
Can I get a glass of water and some Tums?
Yeah, right. Dude, one year they took us to Brazilian Steakhouse.
Oh my God, I love that place. Oh my God.
The only thing that I can think of in my life that was as exciting to me as going to the Brazilian Steakhouse was probably going to Gear Fest.
Oh yeah. A Brazilian Steakhouse would be so awesome.
Dude,
seriously.
I have somewhere on my desk here, I have the card from the steakhouse. You flip over the card.
Oh yeah, you flip the card. So
I never turned it over. It stayed bring me meat the entire time we were there. 3 hours. And dude, I didn't even know what I was eating at the end of it. I was just like, what is that? I don't care.
I don't care.
Looks good to me.
It's a dead animal.
Yeah,
probably.
It looks good to me. There's a bone in it. I probably ate stuff that I would never eat anywhere else. It would not shock me if you told me I ate duck, if I ate rabbit, if I ate boar, if I ate goat, wild stuff, didn't care. It tasted good.
You know what surprised me the most? And I don't see it in stores for some reason, or, in a lot of restaurants, is bison. I love bison.
Oh, no, we do ground bison in the Midwest. I see it quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, out here we don't see it that much. I remember getting it in Fort Wayne when I was out there.
You might be further away in proximity, and that may be part of the reason why.
Yeah.
So, Jim, let's talk about the 10,000-pound gorilla that you bought.
Does it weigh that much?
Well, might as well. So, for listeners of the show, if you didn't know, Jim actually bought that Les Paul that he was talking about. There's a whole shenanigan story, and I don't know if Jim wants to even tell the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I can now.
He had to pull the trigger early. And it was a whole debacle. Then you get the guitar, and what happened, Jim? Did what I say was going to happen to you?
So I had it on layaway. I was going to pay for it after Christmas, And all of a sudden, the rep says, the Gibson rep was there. We're talking, and he goes, I said, "Did you see that guitar I put on layaway?" He goes, "Dude, that's the first thing they showed me when I walked in the door." And I said, "That's cool, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've already sent an email off to headquarters." And I was like, "You've got to be me, right?" So I went to him, on the side, and I said, "You guys aren't going to try to take that back, are you?" He goes, "I'm not going to tell. I'm going to tell him that a customer, put it on layaway, and not a, I don't want to go too deep into how much they covered me, seriously, because if headquarters had gotten back with them that day and they found out that it was an employee, but none of these things happened,
right?
And I didn't have it paid for before they got back, I wouldn't have got the guitar."
No.
Now, if it had been anybody else, it could have been you, they've been okay. But because I'm an employee, I'm kind of bound by rules and regulations like that.
Yeah, they know.
And I understand
they can pull strings on you.
Right. I understand that. I get it.
All right. So let me describe for you, if you haven't seen the pictures, what this thing actually looks like. Picture like Jimmy Page's famous gold top, not the gold top, but the his burst, right? The famous one, like the song remains the same. It's just the center color all over the guitar.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no burst. Literally no burst. And it's misleading in the pictures that we put up last week because it looks like there's a burst. There's no burst. Nope. They forgot. Okay.
Right.
That's what happened here. They forgot.
There's literally no one yet who can tell us how it got to that color, because that color is not in their catalog at all.
That's because there is no color.
Right. And so it's like the only thing we could conjecture, looking at it, those of us who know Les Paul's had a couple collectors and a few other people together, we're all looking at it, and they were oohing and ahhing because they love it. And one guy goes, "I think what happened was they did the first thing. A burst is, for those who don't know, a burst isn't just, they just don't just put red here and brown here and now. It's a color and then another color and then another color, right. And all those things have to dry and formulate and everything. And it's very slowly done. That's why no two look alike."
Well, it's also done by hand. It's not done by a machine.
Right. And so the best guess is that's what a burst would look like if they never put a burst on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure the guy that was there from Gibson looked at it and said, "There's no burst on this."
So they gave me the odds. They said, because what they didn't want to have happen, like you said, there's always that negative Nancy that goes, "Oh, well, see, QA and Gibson, they can't even, do this right." And he said they didn't want a lot of, they don't want a lot of negative or any really negative publicity. But
some of the greatest things in guitar are mistakes like this.
Right.
Look at all of the vintage Stratocasters that came in the custom colors. And they wore away. What did you see underneath? Sunburst. Right. Because they were all painted Sunburst originally.
Right.
They didn't bother to strip them. They just painted right over it.
The other thing that a lot of people don't know about the burst. So in the beginning, Les Pauls were only two colors, black and gold. That was it. You could get an ebony or you could get a gold one. And the reason for that was Gibson didn't want a lot of people to know. What's that?
And they were the tuxedo.
That's right. Gibson didn't want to know a lot of people or want people to know that, what it was underneath that cap. In the beginning, it was kind of a secret. It was trade secret. Of course, later that came out and went with the burst in the later 50s. 57, 58.
And the dumb part is most people will tell you that the cap doesn't make any real difference to the sound. So
yeah. So
I don't know whether it does or not. I'm just saying that's what people say.
Right. So then the bursts were the reason for all the different bursts are twofold. You got, say, 6 people working the sprayers for the bursts. And it's Tuesday and they're smoking. Because back then you smoked everywhere. Everybody smoked everywhere.
There were no
over to babies' cribs.
Jim, there weren't any different bursts. There was literally just a burst. Okay.
Right. It was just a burst. That's what I'm trying to get at. But the reason they look so different was because person A and person B and person C aren't going to burst the thing the same. So they, they would come out different. Then you put them in a window where you take them to a gig and you expose them to the sun and you expose them to the the elements and tons of cigarette smoke, especially back then. And what you get are all these variations. And of course, everybody was like, well, I like a tobacco burst, the dark one.
No, you like the burst.
You like a burst. Exactly. And that's the other side of it. These base colors can be different. And so it all, Heritage Cherry.
The Heritage Cherry burst.
Yeah.
Because we all know what Heritage Cherry looks like. Picture an SG.
Right. That's a real Heritage Cherry.
Yeah. Well,
so
I mean, honestly, when we started talking about this on the sidelines, I looked at the 3 colors of Les Paul they're offering this year in the 50s model, and I was like, ugh, it's a snake farm.
Yeah.
I
wasn't impressed.
Just sounded nasty.
Yeah.
So I think you lucked out. You lucked out. You got the most desirable one of the entire line this year.
Yeah, and so they gave me these odds of it ever making it past somebody, much less out the door, and it was one in like millions.
Yeah, because in this case, if you look at that guitar, I mean, a visual inspection, a basic visual, like let's say they line up, all the factory is doing that day is Heritage Cherry Gibsons, and they're all hanging around the thing, and they're barcoded from birth, right? So as soon as they mate the body and the neck together, they get a barcode. Is my understanding. So then the guy's going down the line to get ready to ship them. He's just throwing them in cases, and he gets down to this one that's like got no finish on it, and he just ignored it, threw it in the case, wasn't thinking about it. So I can imagine all these scenarios of all these stories that are being told to the guy by a coworker that just made him just forget to even do his quality check job and throw it in the case.
But you think about think about this. Think about this. I'm going to show you a picture. I'm pulling this up. That's why I'm kind of. So this picture is the one they take. All right, when it's on the bench.
Right.
It's on somebody's bench. It made it past. Think about this for a minute. That's why I don't think it's an accident. I think it was meant to be this way, but not meant to get where it went.
I'll give you some more on that. But I think that actually says something about their quality, which is actually, it's a good thing. Trust me.
Right. So if you look at this, right, that thing looks gorgeous. Looks beautiful right there. All right. This means that for something bad like this to happen, it would have had to get past the sprayer. It would have had to get past the people who are bursting it. It would have had to get past the person down the line. It would have had to get past this person who does a final check and puts it in a box that says Heritage Cherry. I think the only person that screwed up was shipping and receiving.
Okay. So here's where I think you might be onto something, but you might not be. So the guy that does the quality control check, we're making a big assumption here, is that he scans the tag or he looks at the tag to make sure the guitar is what it is. Now, he's also the guy that's doing the final setup, right?
Yep.
Usually. So in this case, maybe he didn't look at the tag. Maybe he thought this was some other Les Paul that they were doing. And which tells you that the standard quality level is just as high as some of the other Les Pauls they're producing. They're probably of a higher quality.
Right.
Now, that's not to make the assumption, because we were talking about the custom shop being in the same house. If they have the same quality control or anything like that, they may have a different. I mean, they could literally be in the same building with a firewall between them, and nobody ever sees anybody. We don't know how that's all set up. Neither of us have been to the factory, so
no.
But maybe you'll get to go. So as the story goes, right? So this odd Les Paul makes it all the way through the factory, and that's the weird one. Is like, that's not the only quality control process they have in place. Somebody else along the line went off and gave that guitar a check mark. That's why the odds are so high. Right? One person making a mistake, that's understandable. But 3 or 4 people, which is probably what's involved in their quality checking, maybe more than that, that's kind of weird. Yep. But it happens. I mean, look at the Abigail Ybarra pickups that came out of the Fender factory in the 50s and 60s. And we know her name because her name was stamped on all sorts of great pickups. And all of those great pickups are attributed to when she took long lunches and left pickups on the winders. But it's a total accident. It's a quality control disaster, but it ended up being a happy accident. And I could totally see Gibson taking taking your guitar. You go up to them and you say, "Hey, I want to bring it," because didn't they want you to have didn't they talk to you about bringing it in?
Yeah.
So now if you bring it in, they're going to take photos of it, and I could see them doing it as a custom shop option called No Burst.
Right.
Or something like that.
Because it's not an unburst. Believe it or not, if you look at the unbursts, which they do on the 60s models.
Yeah, it's like a reverse.
They have a burst.
It's like a reverse thing. But so this is the thing I wanted to ask you, though, and I wanted you to read off for our listeners. So Jim buys this guitar, right? He makes these crazy arrangements to make this deal happen on short notice. And then
you have no idea.
He gets a call saying he has to bring the guitar back in because they need to do something with the receipt. Now explain to everybody what they did with the receipt.
All they did was put on the receipt, it says in a comment, "Not Heritage Cherry." Something along the lines of color incorrect.
That's your new color code, Jim. Color incorrect.
Color incorrect.
Not Heritage Cherry.
I can literally read it to you because I got it right in front of me. Hold on. Color discrepancy.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's it. Color discrepancy, not Heritage Cherry. That's what they put on my receipt.
I think that's the title of the episode, Color Discrepancy.
Yeah. I laughed hard. I mean, it plays just as good or better than any that I've had. I just wanted a Les Paul, and I wanted the 50s. And that's the other thing about this. This is why it seems to me that this was supposed to go to somebody. I get the feeling this was a one-off, kind of, hey, buddy, can you do this for me?
Yeah, but it was supposed to go to a specific dealer or something, and then that was the quality control screw up. Then instead of going it to this premier dealer who was supposed to be like the top guy's special guitar, it ends up going to Guitar Center on accident.
Well, even if it was a guy, let's say at Guitar Center, which could be. Maybe it was supposed to go to the Hollywood store. Maybe it was supposed to go to the New York store. But my point is, the neck is different. The whole thing about this guitar is different from all the 50 standards that I've messed with.
Can we play a game?
Yeah.
So you bought this guitar. You bought it at a Les Paul standard price. Let's say the current Les Paul standard is what, like $2,400?
$2,499.
$2,499.
Yeah.
So assuming Jim gets it at this price, because obviously we know that there's probably discounts and stuff involved since he works at Guitar Center now. $2,499. How much is this guitar really worth? Because this is one of those few cases where once you take it home, you have something no one else has.
Right.
And I would go as far to say that the guitar like this is priceless, because it's as much as Jim will take from somebody offering to buy it from him. That's how much it's worth. So, this guitar could easily be a $10,000 guitar if somebody wants to offer Jim $10,000 and Jim decides, yep, that's the price.
I've literally thought about reaching out to Bonamassa because he does these guitar safaris.
Yeah, I mean, he might be interested. I honestly, I don't know how interested he would be in new Les Pauls, but he might know somebody who does buy like one-off weirdo things because there are collectors that are like that. I knew a guy. I met a guy. I don't know him personally. I don't even know his name. Who collected the Gibson Blues Hawks or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like the Les Paul, they were like I don't know what you would call, but they were like a hollow body Les Paul kind of thing with P90s, with a Veritone circuit on them, and he loved those things, and he had like 12 or 13 of them, and it was just a weird guitar that he really liked, and you could get him pretty inexpensively, so he bought a bunch of them. I could totally see there being like a Gibson mistake collector, somebody who like buys the Gibsons that like kind of got factory screwed up. But what's going to be really cool is in 10 to 20 years when you say, I got a guitar that's post Juskowitz that could arguably be because of the poor quality control procedures that were in place at the time. Yeah. I think that's the real collector appeal. So personally, Jim, I wouldn't sell to anybody at least in the next 10 years. I mean, when you're retiring and like you feel like you don't really want to be on the road with this thing anymore and that kind of thing, in 10, 15 years, then you list it as factory, like factory, what do you call it? Unicorn.
Right.
Because this is a weird guitar that no one else has seen.
That's why I kind of want to get a video done with me at the, with the factory, and then just so that there's like proof. Because I don't want somebody, oh yeah, that's Chinese knockoff. Or
you had somebody refinish it and you're just saying that Gibson out that way.
Exactly.
Which, you could easily verify that because you can compare the nitro to guitars at the time. But honestly, I know you're going to play it. I'm kind of like, dude, that's
I know that's just it.
You really
it might have to
play that much.
It might have to sit, and I'll have to buy another one.
But even Bonamassa, like, look at all the collector guitars he has. They've all been played. Like, they've been played to hell. And I don't think he's even interested in a guitar that hasn't been played to shit. I mean, so he wants things holes in the pick guard and everything else, which is fine. More power to him. I love guitars that have been beat, that had the snot beat out of them. But I just think it's kind of funny that he's not really a collector so much as a collector player. Whereas like true collectors, they look for the closet classic stuff that has action that's like 10 inches high. So I don't know, man. I think it's a cool find. I think it's a cool guitar. I think you're really lucky to find something like that new.
Yeah. And I'm actually kind of surprised that nobody, outside of our Guitar Center, the people who visit it, nobody knew about it.
Yeah. And it's going to be that way. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it is you're going to have to explain to everybody when they're like, that guitar looks really off. Like there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
And then you explain to them like, oh, here's what's going on here.
That's another reason I want to get that Nashville video because I want to kind of put it up, say, all right, look.
Nobody can steal it from you.
Yep. No. Serial number to color, everything.
Yeah.
So I've got another piece of gear coming.
Yeah, well, and this is almost
not a big deal.
This is almost not even notable, but
I know after this, everything kind of goes downhill from here.
So Jim just bought a $2,400 guitar, and he bought a $600 amp.
Well, yeah. Well, all right. So before this guitar, do you remember 2 weeks ago I took home a $2,200 Hummingbird?
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
Jim's got a problem. Jim needs guitar methadone. That's what Jim needs at this point. He needs something to substitute for buying new guitars, amplifiers, and effects. Okay, Jim needs to buy PA equipment or something. Just do something else with your money. Like just change direction a little bit.
So not that it's even a big deal. I just got a Blues Junior. It's like how it was like I'm in the store and I'm looking at and I go, you know what, you had mentioned it, you said how much the Blue Junior, and then I looked at that Supro King 12,
the Blues King, you agree with me then after what I said? They sound like crap. I could not believe that they're charging what they're charging for that thing. It's Epiphone Valve Junior kind of sounds at like 4 times the price, which is, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Why would I buy a Champ that's, like with a 12-inch speaker that's like, the same amount of money, basically. I think they want $600 for one.
Yeah,
It's
$600.
the same price as the
Blues Junior.
Well, so is the Blues King made in the States though? Because the Blues Junior, I believe, is made in Mexico.
That's a possibility. Yeah, the Blues Junior is definitely.
It's either Mexico or China, and I don't remember which.
I don't think that the Supro Blues King is.
That may be their first foray into a foreign built amp.
Honestly, I do not think it's built in the States.
Because everything else the Supro was making was built in Absara, New York.
I mean, it's a possibility.
So they make 2 versions of the Blues King too. They make an 8-inch 1-watt version.
I know.
Oh, they actually make a couple of ones. So they have like a 5-watt 1x10. That actually is pretty compelling, but not at that price. $475 for the 5-watt version. And then the one you'd actually want the 12-inch 15-watt version. That's $600. I'm looking for anything on the chassis that indicates where it was made.
Well, you know where I have to go.
Made in USA on it.
I'm going to go to Sweetwater.
That's where I'm looking right now. It's definitely not. No. Well, so it says Absara Audio - New York, which means designed. Right. It does not mean made there, which is quite interesting. I'd have to see the guts, because I've seen enough Supro circuit boards at this point that I could tell you a little bit more about it. I do like that it's 606 based.
Right.
But granted, I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of mods to get that amp to sound as good as the Blues Junior does. That's the thing. So the Blues Junior punches well above its weight class, especially now in the 4th iteration of that thing. So I remember playing 1 and 2, and I remember 2 being like, yeah, it's a tube amp. Like that was why you bought it, because it was like the cheapest tube amp you could get. It was worth it. And then the 3 came out, and it was like they got kind of new life, and people were more interested in putting different speakers and stuff in them. Then the 4 was announced like in 2018 or 2017.
Yep.
And I saw the demo for it, and they showed the reverb, and they showed what they did with the tone controls and stuff, and I was like, it's perfect. They listened to all of the feedback as to why people hated it, like who bought it and sold it, and they realized what they had to do to fix it. Now it has killer reverb on it. I don't care if it's a spring or if it's digital. I didn't even ask that question. The reverb on it sounds much more Fender.
It's a spring, I can tell you that, because when you're banging a box around, because mine's in a box right now, I put the box down, I was like, clank, 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 and I was like, oh crap, it's broke.
No, you're not going to break it by crashing it.
No, it's the spring reverb.
So I think they changed the tank, and I think they also changed the driver circuit and some other things. But then even the tonality of the amp and the speaker, like just the stock speaker they're putting in them, is so much better than what they were putting in them before. They switched to Celestion A-Type.
They went to Eminence something or other.
It's an Eminence? I thought it was No, I think the 4 is an A-Type.
It might be. Oh, maybe the 3 is the Eminence.
Yeah, the 3 is where they went to the Eminence I bought. Yeah, the 4 is an A-Type. I can see the Celestion logo on the back.
Yep, you're right.
So the main thing is like why I would want the 3 or the 4 over the 3 is just the tonal upgrades, but also the black panel on top is way easier to see. And I would gig this thing. I could use a 15-watt amp and gig most places where I play. Yep. Now, granted, this is not going to give me the sounds that I'm after for the most part, so I'm going to have some pedals on the floor. But I think these guys they actually make really good pedal platforms. They're very similar to a Hot Rod Deluxe in that regard. The problem with the Hot Rod, of course, is they're just too damn loud. And that volume knob, unless you do mods to it, is just ridiculously sensitive. I heard that they fixed that, though, because there was an HRD version 4 or whatever that's in the same line where the volume knob is supposed to be better.
Yeah, the Hot Rod one I looked at the hot rod one too.
But
We had that.
But Jim, why would you buy a hot rod when you can buy any of a billion of them that are used for
Right.
like a fraction of the price?
Yep.
Because they now have a reputation for being super loud. What's the hot rod go for now? It's like 700.
I think they're 650 or 700.
They are now $800, my friend.
No.
Yes, they are $800.
Oh my god.
I can remember when a hot rod deluxe was $400, which is dating myself. So
yeah.
So put that in perspective. I can buy a $350 or $400 hot rod deluxe, or I can buy an $800 new one.
Oh my god. No wonder.
I'll live with the problems. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I'm at. Like I'll live with the crappy one. Like it's fine. What gets me is, so this is kind of prompted. This whole thing for me was prompted by Reverb put out a list of the top selling amplifiers of 2019 on Reverb's site, and Blues Junior is always at the top of the list. It was number 2 last year. This year, I believe it was number 1. It was, and it was, so the funny part is number 2 on that list is the one that just absolutely kills me. It still slays me. It's the Katana.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's the cheapest amp you can get that anybody actually wants. I mean, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than a Blues Junior, but it's funny because in years past, I can remember seeing like Hot Rod Deluxe come up in those kind of discussions. And now that the word is kind of out that they're super loud and you really can't, they're really not a great pedal platform for a lot of people and what they're trying to do. Like if you're trying to play a Hendrix with a Hot Rod Deluxe, you're going to blow people's heads off because you're going to hit it with a fuzz face and it's got to be a little distorted to begin with.
I got a friend of mine. He does open mics with those things and just literally will tear your face off if you're in line with it. I don't care if you're in the back of the bar or front of the bar.
With a single 12. I had one with 2 Eminence Legend 10s. That thing would peel paint off the walls. I had to put hearing protection on just to be in the room with it. And it was funny because when I had it, like it was the punchiest amp I'd ever owned because they had done some mods to it. I mean, I should have kept that amp. I really should have. I kind of kicked myself because I've sold it. I know we've talked about it on the show before. So what was interesting about it is I had a Rivera. I had the R30 that Nick Bongers now owns, or 3012, depending on, it's an R30, right? That's the actual designation. And that's supposed to be a loud amp. And it did not touch. It did not even come close to what that hot rod could do. I mean, it was the hot rod before it was even breaking up was like way louder than the 30-watt Rivera that was supposed to be, loud as sin, basically.
We've got an amp in the store right now to rip your face off, but it is the coolest amp that I've seen in a long time. It's the real thing. It's not a reissue. It's nothing like that. It's a 1967 Super Reverb 4x10.
They're all 4x10s. That's a Super Reverb format.
Yeah. I mean, dude, that thing will.
And the stupid part about it is that amp is going to go for like less than 3 Gs all day long. I mean, you want to buy a deluxe reverb from that era? You're pushing $4,000 at this point. For a good one.
Right.
And you can buy great super reverbs all day long for like, I've seen them for as low as $1,000, vintage ones.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw a 60, or maybe it was a 67, pre silver face, right? Like a 67.
Yep. Blackface. Yep.
4x10, a whole deal. No new Tolex. Cabinet was beat to crap. You could tell he had gigged hard in his life. Had all new caps and stuff installed, brand new. Like he had the original tubes, but he had brand new tubes installed. I think one of the speakers had been replaced, and maybe it was 2, and they wanted like $1,400 for it. And I'm like, are they really that inconvenient that somebody will pay $1,400 for a super reverb like that?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll tell you. So I had a buddy of mine in the store today. He was trying out an amp, and he's like, "Man, this sounds great! Oh God, it's killer!" Blah 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 blah. And I said, that's a solid state amp. And he goes, "What?"
Oh, you tried the Tone Master?
Yep, he was playing the Tone Master, the Twin Reverb Tone Master.
So I heard the Twin, and I liked it.
Yep.
I don't think that's not something I could get out of my Kemper. And I can definitely hear there was some stuff going in the high end on the reverb that the Real Deal doesn't do. And I don't know whether it's because the Real Deal's a reissue or whether it's because it's just a digital artifact that comes through. But there's definitely something going on in the high end that you won't hear. Like it smooths out with the tube stage in it. And I would gig it. Like I don't have any problem with it. I do think the price needs to come down about $200 for both.
Yeah.
For me to be like, okay, yeah. But they will. And the interesting thing for me will be how soon is that going to happen? And I hope they discontinue them. I hope that they're because I'm gonna buy one as soon as they discontinue them. I'll get one used and I'll pay like nothing for it because it's digital and it'll be out of date. You know what I mean? Because
I can say this: they never last more than 3 days in the store right now. Mm-hmm. So they're still
there's really buzz behind them, and it may be that they actually do take off. But I hope they don't. Yeah. I really do because
that's because I want to get one. Yeah, I want to get one cheap.
I thought the freaking Cyber Twin sounded good. I mean, we talked about that on the show. I thought about buying one. Didn't you buy one or something?
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah, what happened to it?
I sold it.
Oh, that you did?
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't even remember why now. To be honest with you,
probably just because you weren't using it.
I've still got that. I've still got that Roland. I've still got.
Well, now you got that Blues Junior coming in. Well, you don't have no need for that Katana now.
I know. I'm thinking about. I don't know if I want to give the Katana to the kids or just sell it.
I'm laughing because I'm like, Jim's going to sell a Katana, and now he's going to get a Katana.
And then buy it
later on. He's going to get a Katana too. By the end of 2020, he will have
a Katana too.
7 Katanas. He will have 7 of them at that.
Well, no, the Katana 2 is completely different.
No, Jim, that's not
my God.
Come on.
I know, but that's what I'm trying to say. I had a person in the store. We had a Katana. We had a Katana 2 next to each other, right?
Yeah.
Katana's $40 cheaper. The guy's like, well, can't you give me the same price on the Katana 2? I said,
no.
I don't think you understand why the Katana is $40 cheaper. It's because people like you think it's that the other one is better. It's just got more crap on it.
Dude, and so there are actually people, and I've seen them in groups and things online, who are arguing that the Katana version 1 sounds better than the version 2.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
And I just kind of sit there and shake my head. I'm like, it's ones and zeros. They didn't change the AD converters. It's the same freaking thing.
That's right. All they did was give you a few more tones.
Maybe the cabinet dimensions might be slightly different, or the speaker might have been revised or something. But ultimately, or maybe the speaker has been worn in. I've never been a big proponent of believing in that, but maybe it has been. Maybe that's the real difference. I'm not going to buy another Katana. I've had 2. And I'm to the point where it's like, I got to be able to get like professional level sound out of something for even to bat an eye at it at this point. I am looking at the Blues Junior, and the reason why I'm looking at it is actually it's a rehearsal amp. I want something I can pick up and just carry around. They don't weigh anything. They're like 25 pounds.
They're super, super small. That was the thing. So I was looking at the Andertons did this shootout of the small amps, blah blah blah, and they had the Marshall Origin 20, which I don't know why they didn't choose the DSL 20, but they went with the Origin 20, whatever. The Marshall Origin 20. These are the amps they lined up against each other, which was why it was such a wide variety.
I think it was more in like configuration style because the DSL 20 is a more modern amp, whereas the Origin 20 is more like kind of what the Hot Rod and the Blues Junior are.
Right. And then they went to and then a Vox AC-15.
Right.
Super the Blues King 12. Who was he? Oh, Black Star's HT20. And
I would think the Black Star Artisan would be a better fit for that, or the
yeah, me
artist.
too. But they were trying to keep them. They were trying to keep them all around the same price point and all around the same feature set.
Was under 600.
And the other one was the Blues Junior.
Right.
Okay. And so they were saying, well, the Blues Junior sells the best. That's the one that, flies outdoor the most, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, and an orange Rocker Verb 15, which I had a guy looking at one today, and he said the same thing I did. Overpriced.
Yeah, the Rocker Verb's really expensive.
For what it is.
I don't think they sound good clean either.
No.
I know some people are like, oh, yeah, they're really good for, they're versatile amps. I don't think they're versatile at all. I think they're gained out or nothing. And they're gained out, like, if you're not into the fizzy, like, kind of fuzzy sort of distortion, that's really not where you want to be. I also don't like how undefined their sound is. It's a little bit raw for what I do.
But I can tell you that I wasn't surprised at all with the results of Honore playing through all the amps. I liked the Black Star until you put it next to the other ones. You know what I mean?
Well, the Black Star has the most features, but I think the Black Star is really meant to go toe to toe with the DSL. I'm like, they picked the wrong amp for that shootout, really, because the Black Star Artist or whatever, the Artist 15, I think it's 700. It would be the most expensive in that category for sure.
Right. Anyway, I liked the two amps. I liked the best that they shot out was the Origin and the Blues Junior.
It wasn't the Blues King, was it?
Or the AC-15. It was. The AC-15 had it going on when it was a certain way, but
I think all right, so I'm going to commit blasphemy. I think Vox AC amplifiers in general, AC-15s, AC-30s, AC-5, AC-10s, I think those amps sound better mic'd up in a studio session than they do in the room. I think those amps have a tendency to be really kind of ugly sounding. But once you get a microphone in front of them, there's something magic about them, which is why I've never gravitated towards them. I don't dislike them. I've owned a lot of Vox products in my life, and I can get away with that sound because my solid state amp for years was a Vox, and it was really funny because the first time I actually plugged into a tube Vox, it was like a very similar experience in terms of what the controls did and how everything interacted. So I quickly realized, like, yeah, I could buy this and I could gig this and I could be happy with it. But at the same time, I was like, it's not really what I'm after. And I think it's really easy for people to look at Vox who watch their heroes and icons, the people like The Edge, Brian May, Tom Petty, and
early
Beatles, and really, I mean, a lot of different artists like that doing this edge of breakup thing with the AC series amplifiers and saying that's what I want, and being like totally in tune with that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just think that a lot of that's hero worship, and less so like in terms of like how you actually want to use it. You see it kind of. I saw it for a while in the P-Dubs community when they were all Lincoln Brewstered out and run like tube screamers into AC series amplifiers because he could get those sounds out of his pod rig. He was running a pod stereo, I think, to two AC-30s, and he was basically just doing like the SRV tones and stuff like that, and people were losing their minds over it. And I thought it was cool because I'm like, well, that's not the typical way you would hear that done. But I kind of got it. I was like, okay, so you could do the same thing with a super reverb, just to crank up the reverb.
I told you about this one guy that I saw. He played a Line 6 Pod HD 500, not even the new DX model, the old model, into a freaking Fender Hot Rod DeVille, and he had it going on like Donkey Kong when it came to playing SRV.
There's a guy locally. He's got a Les Paul Custom. He runs it into a DSL 40 CR and has a pedal board. He's got like a Distortion Plus and stuff on there. Pretty basic setup. Of course, all professionally laid out and everything. And that guy sounds like $1,000,000. And I was like, I honestly, the first time I heard him, it was right after I got off stage. And I was like, he sounds better than me with this $3,000 piece of gear over here. And
I hate. I'm gonna say something unpopular. You know how they say that tone is in your fingers and blah blah blah, which I think is partially BS, but partially true. Here's my thing: if all you ever had was what you had,
make it work.
You'll make it work. You will make it work. You will pull those tones out of it. In whether it's pick attack, whether it's the way you roll off, of whether the guitar you choose,
that's actually the fun part about the modeling gear, is because you can't really develop like a relationship with the amplifier in the same way that you do when you're playing through, a real amplifier, in the sense that how it's going to respond, right? Especially the Kemper, because it's literally, changing the entire topology of the amplifier to react differently when you switch profiles. And it's night and day. You're playing a Plexi. It does not feel like playing a deluxe reverb, and vice versa. And there's a real challenge as a player to understand that when you hit that foot switch to switch amplifiers, all of a sudden you got to change everything. I never had that experience with other modeling equipment. Not to say that that isn't a thing. I'm just saying that when I had my Flex Tone 3 years ago, and I would switch tones, like it would pretty much react the same way. And it was not something I'd set up. It was just that was the models were kind of vaguely similar in a way. And I think that presents an interesting dynamic to this idea that people who use modelers are not real guitar players and stuff like that. That's completely the opposite of what's going on there. And actually, they're like the guy that you got in the studio who says, "Oh, you want a Marshall on this track? Oh, you want a deluxe reverb on this track?" There's a reason why players are identified with specific amplifier companies, because the topologies and the way they react to them are like they're kind of like DNA. They fit together, and there's really only 4 different choices. And so when you see somebody like I'm trying to think of, like Slash is a good example. He only plays Marshalls, right? Which is probably not really true. I think I remember reading that he played a Bogner and some other things in different places, but he's known for playing Marshalls, and Bogners aren't far off from Marshalls. Whereas Kenny Gatton, loud Fenders, like that was his thing, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, loud clean amps,
loud clean amps,
and he looked for stuff that was more Fender in nature, but he did have Marshall Club and Countries, and he had that Dumble, which is vaguely Fenderish. And I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that there was some cross, pollinating there, but not like it is today, where you got a guy with an Axe Effects who, he's got Fenders on one song and Voxes on another, and then he's doing, a couple different types of Marshalls with some Mesa stuff in there too. And you're sitting there going, as a listener, listening to one of those experiences with an album like that would be like a collage in a way. And I've experienced, so I do my own tracks for playing out, and we do these. I come in, set up my thing and whatever. And one of my tracks has some very different sounding drums, and they're actually set at different levels, and it's jarring. And I kind of think that I need to go back and master it differently, and like maybe fix the drums in the mix for that song, so when I have a live mix of it, they're cohesive. And the reason being is that you want people to feel like it's the same band playing those songs. And I think that same trick that's going on in my ears when I hear my tracks that way is the same thing that a listener hears when they hear like 30 different guitar sounds on one song. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But it does, I will say it has raised the bar technically for a lot of guitar players. Like you see these guys like Andy James. I think Andy James plays fractal stuff. I could be wrong on that. And the guy's a monstrous player, just like inhuman. And he's one of these dudes that Jared Dines would totally be like, you're faking. But he's not, right? And he's kind of legendary for that already, and he hasn't had a super long career or anything like that. And he's one of these dudes that can change the feel like that from song or from within a song, and just know that now when I hit this button, like I got to change my pick attack completely and all this stuff, and it sounds flawless. I don't know that somebody like a Jimmy Page would be able to do that without rehearsing it ahead of time or like, you know what I mean? Like without experiencing it. But he's probably a really bad candidate because that guy's all over the place. AC30s, Fender Pro Juniors, Fender Pro Reverbs rather. That was the last time I saw like him do that tour with Page and Plant. This is what he was using. And then Bandmasters, Bassmen, of course Marshalls, Oranges, whatever he was around. He's kind of known for being a cheap guy and would use whatever. Then you get guys like Brian May, who will not use anything but AC30s and very specific year AC30s.
Yeah, and Brian May, that's exactly right. And he even says that I saw this interview with him on something. He was talking about how he has to bring several.
He brings 6 or 12, depending on how many dates they're doing.
And he's only playing through like.
No, he uses 3, but the reason why they have 6 on stage is so they have 3. So when they blow up, they switch over to the other 3, and they lose one a night. Basically, they know they're going to lose one a night.
And he actually said, very sarcastically, it was very funny to see him because he's not a sarcastic.
No, he's very.
But to see him say, he said, "Yeah, we've never had a problem with."
Yeah, it's the amount of. So his guitar tech is more an amp tech than a guitar tech, and he literally will rebuild those things on the road, while they're going from place to place. Sets up a shop and starts rebuilding them because they burn out tubes and blow up.
Yeah, he's got a multimeter, and a
test probe,
soldering gun, and a test probe, and all that stuff to do all the stuff. And
they rebuild them. They like one a week or something because they said they burn out one a night. They usually take 12 on the road, 6 on stage. And then they're using actually now they're using they're not even using the vintage ones as much. They have a bunch of his signature ones, which are basically the same as the vintage ones, and they only have one knob on them. It's like a volume knob in the back. It's not even on the top. It's in the back.
Yeah, because he doesn't care about the tone and everything. That's already built to where he wants it. I remember where I saw it. It was in the Vox history of Vox, and it was an interesting thing. The Super Beatles, and him. They got a phone call. It's funny because he gets a phone call from this guy, and he says, "I want you to give these kids some amps." And he goes, "Who are they?" "Well, there's this band. They just came back from Germany. And we think they're going to hit it big. They're called the Beatles." He goes, "How much are we going to charge them for?" He goes, "No, we want you to give them to them for free." He goes, "I don't give
I don't do that for anybody."
And it's funny because they finally did work out some agreement, but it just made me laugh. It's of course, when you don't know who the Beatles are nobody. But it was just funny.
Now I've heard
to hear
the famous Beatle endorsed amp from them is not what people think it is. So like a lot of people think that the Super Beetle, the piggyback thing that they built was like this, it was like an AC 100, kind of idea. No,
it was a touring. That was their touring.
No, they weren't even the same things as what they sold. They were solid state.
Yeah, they were solid state. That's what I was just going to say.
I think they ended up selling like these Super Beetle heads that were actually tube things. If I recall, that's the story. But that the amps that they were using, they switched over to solid state because they didn't want any of the problems, things blowing up. And you got to remember, the Beatles at that time, 50 watts was not enough to get over the screaming girls in the audience. So they needed as loud as they could get, which is why they ended up with like what the 6x10s or whatever that were.
Yes,
some crazy thing like that.
Yeah, if you watch that New York City, what is it? They're playing not Dodger Stadium, but one of the big stadiums, and you can see the Super Beetles. But again, like you said, they're not the Super Beetles people thought they were buying. These were huge, like several 100-watt solid state heads, because they wouldn't get the rigors of the road.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they didn't actually end up offering a Super Beetle that was closer to what they were using. And it's funny because it was, again, a solid state head. I think they were 100 or 150 watts. They were offered with a 6x10 cab, I believe. And I'm just going off the cuff. I don't remember exactly the specs. I actually had my guitar teacher had one back in the 70s, and he kicked himself because he sold it. He sold it because, solid state amps sucked. And later on, now those things are highly sought after, and they weren't bad. They were actually pretty good sounding things. And he was telling me at that time period, like, there were a lot of bands that were making these really strange amplification deals with companies that, that don't even exist anymore. Like the Doors they had some PA endorsements.
Oh yeah.
And Robbie Krieger was playing through some like PA amplifier for like a really long time. Who was it? I know Genesis used some sort of flat amplification system for Steve Hackett for a while. Now, he had high watts too.
Skinner, yeah, Skinner used something weird like Peavy's or something.
Well, that kind of makes sense because the Southern Connection. But if you go back in time, you'll find these like weird cases where people were using off stuff, like the Super Beetle, which that's a whole other thing. Is like Beatles. What the Beatles did to gear in the gear industry, because you would think they had more influence on the gear industry than they did. I mean, the guitars they were most synonymous with, like Rickenbacker, for example, are largely not. I mean, I don't think about the Beatles when I think Rickenbacker. You know what I think about? I think about the Byrds.
Yep.
And
yes.
It's really strange because I have a feeling my generation is unique in that regard, number one. But also because they didn't – so like they had the casinos. That was another thing they were kind of known for. And I would think that would probably be more
when you think about the Beatles, there were the Beatles and then the Beatles, right? So the Beatles that first came out, they had the Rickenbackers and the Foxes. And then there were the Beatles that didn't tour. So all we got were videos of them in the studio. So then we saw the casinos, and we saw the Telecasters, and we saw the that stuff that previously wasn't out there. The 335s.
I'm actually looking for information on the real Super Beetle. All I'm finding is the stupid mini Super Beetle article.
Yeah, that thing's awful. Anyway.
It's basically Beatles memorabilia.
It's basically, that's like when people come in, they go to buy the Lunchbox amps. And if they pick up the Fender or the Orange, they go, no, put it down and get the Black Star Fly. If you want to pay only, sub $100 for this thing, at least get the one that's going to work. I mean, if you can't afford $100 for what is it, the Katana Mini?
Yeah.
Then don't work.
So here, Super Beetle, I'm looking at it. I'm trying to find the cabinet size because that's the thing. No, it was a 4x12, but they were staggered, and it actually had it had two mid-axe horns in it.
Yep.
Oh my god!
I think that's what made it so tall.
Yeah, probably.
Right? Because usually you would have 8x12.
Yeah, I forgot about the horns because I knew that was like they were like a PA system more than they were.
Yeah, they sang. I think they sang through two of them.
I believe it. They were insanely loud though because they were 150 watts, and they were rated to compete with the wattages that they were rating the AC30 at. Which, if you know your amplification, people will tell you that the AC30 is really a 50-watt amplifier, and that the AC50 heads, which came out later, were more like a 75-watt amplifier. They were closer to like a twin reverb in their power output. So for them to be using these 100-watt, 120-watt RMS solid-state amps at that time, that were basically tuned to be loud and efficient. I can't imagine how loud these things actually were. Funny story though, right? And this is so I want to end on this fact. There was another person who's came out recently and tried to convince people that this is the sound of their band. And that is Jimmy Page says that he was using the Super Beetle on a lot of early Led Zeppelin recordings.
Wow.
I don't believe it for a second. I think he's leading people down a rabbit hole. But you know, that's a funny story. Like to think that, you know, he would be using the Super Beetle. So,
you think the elderly statesman is going to lead people down a rabbit hole?
He's done it before. How many times did he tell people that he used different Supros? Like he said, the 1x15, the 6x9, and then it wound up being a custom modded 12-inch cabinet with one of their more common circuits in it, like a Coronado or something. And he actually had dozens of these things. He had actually not just the 1x12, but like all the different variations. But the one he favored was like modded out of all the parts that he liked from the other ones. And it was really more about microphone placement than it was the amp itself. Because I played the Black Magic, which is supposed to be like kind of a vintage reproduction of what the one that he donated to the Experience Music Project is actually like.
Yeah.
Now, first off, you have to believe that Jimmy would actually donate the one he used on recordings, which I'm kind of shrugging my shoulders on that one. But nevertheless, there have been some people that said they saw it in the studio and stuff. I played that thing, and yeah, it does sound like Good Times, Bad Times, but it sounds like Good Times, Bad Times if you put a plate reverb on it and you put the microphone in the right place. It's not going to be like Zeppelin tone in a box. That's just not what it is. And I think Jimmy Page could just say he used anything and people would believe him at this point because he could figure out how to do it. I mean, he'd take the back off one of these Super Beetles and put the microphone like inside the cone of a speaker pointing up, and all of a sudden it sounds like a Super Lead Plexi. and people would believe he actually did that. I mean, he could say that and people would be like, that's how I got it.
Oh, yeah.
But to me, his sound is very much a 1959 Super Lead Plexi, like it's always been said. A lot of those records where you can hear those big ass Marshall sounds, it's big ass Marshall. That's what it is.
Oh yeah. Hey, so when Page was with what was that band? The Firm. That was what's his face singing lead, right? Paul Rogers.
Radioactive.
Yep, Radioactive.
Not that other Radioactive song.
And that's why I know. That's why every time somebody says,
I think about it. I tell people the good Radioactive, not the bad one.
Yeah. When I never heard the song, right? Somebody goes, we're going to cover Radioactive. I'm like, oh, right. I'm like, you know, and then this boring pile of.
You're like, oh man, I get to play that crazy diminished lick, you know? And then, nope, not going to happen.
Nope. And it's some boring, droning pile of junk.
Since we're talking about
Imagine Dragons. That's right.
Since we're going to talk about Rick and Morty. Now, since we're going to talk about that's the only good thing about that episode, by the way, is that we can now make fun of Imagining Dragons. Right. We're talking about Jimmy Page and the Firm, like the Firm. The Firm was literally just an excuse for Jimmy Page to just prove to people that he could take anything and turn it into a riff that would actually sell. And if you listen to some of those songs, more so than anything he did in Led Zeppelin, it's so abstract. You're like, how the hell did he get away with that? And then you got Paul Rogers singing. You know, he could sing the phone book and it would sound fine. You know.
Oh yeah. He's an incredible singer. But that riff in Radioactive,
and every song is like that. It's not just that song. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You listen to that riff, and at first you're like, "Oh, it's just a descending pentatonic."
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
All right, I have been David,
and I've been
tonight
Jim.
We've been the Practical Guitarists.
Bye.
Good evening.